I was the first one of the last of the 7 children there, the first one to ever fail anyway. All my other siblings had passed right through. So in the evening, I sat crying in one corner and I asked God, why me? 90% of these people don't even know what their children are doing at school. See, because the parents haven't taken responsibility for their education. And of course, those of us who are the know-all, we haven't spent time saying what education must the children have.
Traditionally, families that we grew up in back in those days, one always took over from the other in terms of supporting the parents in relation to raising the kids. Like the elders will take over from the parents. Was that system clear in your family?
Well, it's my brother, the second brother. We know we're 3 brothers.
Yeah.
The one who was previously one of the principals of University of the North. He did all, because by the time I went to high school, my father was a pensioner. He took my education right through.
King David Studio Podcast.
Today in the studio, in the home of Professor Ephraim Mokgokong. His story is an incredible one, and I'll do very little introduction because I think he's one of those South Africans who do not need a lot of introduction. Say, I hope you're well. How are you?
I'm well today.
Today? I can't help but acknowledge you said today. Is there a reason why you say that?
Well, with aging, every day you count, you must count positive.
Yes.
Yeah, you have a pain here, a pain there, but that comes with age.
Yes. Interesting. Every time I call my mom, who is 82 now, I always ask exactly that way. Or how are you today?
Yes.
Is the body still strong? Is your body still strong?
No, it's still first class.
First class. Oh, I like that. How old do you feel?
Well, I don't know. I know I'm old. But many people tell me I'm not I don't look as old as I am, but I am. I do feel a bit old.
You do feel it's slower.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm much slower in how I do things. I have a bit of a tremor, but that's about all.
How do you spend your days? What do you do mostly?
Oh, just look at TV, do a bit of reading, sleeping, and so.
Do you enjoy your days at home?
Well, they're very nice, yes. Yes, at least I do certain things, I check certain things in life.
Yes. Your story is an incredible one, but I want to start somewhere. I want to start acknowledging your son. Because we lost him earlier this year.
Yes, January,
yes. And they say parents must never bury their kids.
Yes.
And I asked this question to someone who's much, much senior and whose son was also not a young man. Is that statement true to someone who lost their son at such a mature age?
It was a big loss. I didn't know I needed him around me for much longer, but until he passed, it took me months to really recover.
What? He was 71?
Yes, he was there.
What is the one thing that you probably stood out the most about his absence or your realization that he's no longer around?
You see, in my party, there are 2 seats that opposing each other. One is mine, one is his. His remains empty every time.
Oh, no.
Because that's where he used to come and sit, and we used to talk about things. We used to talk about my parents, his grandparents. My parents played a great part in his early days, the toddler days, the growing days.
Yes.
I eventually took him over when he was already high school. Yes.
Did you influence his medical career?
Yes, I did. He was actually, I think, the brightest in that land that I know. He certainly was brighter than I was. And I was in bottom of the class. I mean, he was bright. But he was, when he got round to doing, was doing BSc then, and I decided he must do civil engineering. I'm very fond of civil engineering. And I talked to the people at Wits, and they said they definitely, with his type of his performances, he would go in. And when the time came, they said he was going to do electrical engineering. I got so angry that I told him to get into a train to come to Natal, where I was teaching, and to go and do medicine. That's how we got into doing medicine. He didn't really decide to do medicine. I'm happy that he took what I said he should do, and he did it well.
Were you forceful in your approach as a father?
Not really, but I think, I came from a family where you listen to what parents did, and he listened to what I said. I just simply said, vets won't take you in civil engineering, so come and do medicine. And he went to do medicine. Incredible.
Because we owe him a great of gratitude for so much. He stands out in a landmark South African medical moment. Yam Polim.
Yes.
It remains part of South Africa's history.
We were actually staying together then when he did. We were staying at the campus. The only house they built, there were supposed to be 50 for staff at Medunsa. Then they built only one that I used for a while until 1984 when I moved out.
Yes.
Yes. So we were always together.
So you stayed with him during that time?
Yes, most of the time, yes.
Do you remember how he felt about what he was about to walk into? Paul and Ponyana were in the news every single day for years. And now here's this relatively young doctor, Professor Mokgokong, who's given this case to lead, and he does it successfully.
Well, he was really brought up by my father, who said, you don't work, you work to do the best. Nobody must ever find place to correct if you have done a piece of work. That's how we were brought up, and that was his attitude as well.
Do it perfectly.
Perfect, yes.
Wow.
Quality.
All the time.
Yes.
Jeez, those are high standards. And you lived by those standards as well, I mean.
Yes.
They have very high standards. Let's talk about where you're from. Where were you born?
I was born in a place called Makotopong, which was in the olden days 21 miles north of Pietersburg on the Great North Road, which was N1.
Okay.
Straight there, on that road. That's where I was born. That's where my father was a teacher and a priest. Yeah. And I was born there. But I started at sub-A at a place in Mlech, which was where he went to start up a new Lutheran mission in a place called Mohadi. And it was that's when I started, and he was teaching sub-A. And he took me to school. He said, I would just be a nuisance at home. He thought I would spend a year doing nothing, and I passed that year. But he then said he will get mad if we get him to B, let him repeat A. So he made me do A for the second time. And he was very sorry he tried that, because I became a nuisance in his class. I was I had nothing else I could do. But that's where I was born and I was brought up from.
Yes. So he treated your first year as daycare.
Yes.
And you passed.
I passed, yes.
And now second year of school, you already knew the stuff.
Yes. It was really, I was a nuisance, but I suppose he was right. I was still very little.
Yes. So are you saying you then, when you started earlier than the required age at the time?
Well, I don't even think they had forceful age. Yes, I think I was just maybe about 6 or so when I started.
Jeez. And your recollection of that time is still crisp.
Oh yes, I still remember my early days there.
What type of area is Mokgokong?
Mokgokong, well, Mokgokong is where I was born, but Mleji, where I started, was a different place. He was there until I reached Standard 1.
Okay.
And he went back to Mokgokong, where he was. So Mokgokong is along, as I said, Great North Road, N1. We used to call it the town of Botlokwa. It was the southernmost part of Botlokwa. That's where I grew up.
I'm familiar with all that. My people are, and I call them mine, like Yabatlema. They are from the Jane Fest side of Kobedi.
Oh, yes.
Yeah, so I'm Bahamashavela.
Okay.
So I'm familiar with that neighborhood because when I was growing up, a lot of people around me used to speak of them.
One Mashavela married my cousin. Okay. They came from Sibidiela area.
I hope he was a good Mashavela.
Oh, he was a great teacher.
Yes.
Yes.
And your schooling, did it relatively go smoothly? Your early years of school?
Until Standard 6. I failed Standard 6.
Oh, no.
Yes, I did in 1947. I failed Standard 6. The whole class failed Standard 6. It was a rural school where we all failed. I knew... I wrote. It was, you see, the exam was not local. It was a national exam, and I knew. I mean, I didn't know what I was writing in the exam, and when the results came and my father announced in church, he didn't even tell me at home. Announced at church, and he said to the congregation, "He's very sorry. Nobody has passed."
Jeez.
And it hit me the first thing. It was the turning point in my life.
Whoa!
Because first I was the first one of the last of the 7 children there, the first one to ever fail anyway. All my other siblings had passed right through. I was the last one and the first one to fail. So in the evening, I sat crying in one corner, and I asked God, "Why me? Why do you do this to me?" And but it changed my life. From that day, I knew you must do something in whatever you're taught to do. You must put effort, and I didn't need to be helped again ever.
Wow! And you were quite young.
I was young, yes.
For the mind to shift so much.
I shifted from that day. When I went, I repeated. They took me to a school, nearby school, Motokwa Primary School, which was taught by a cousin of ours who was one of the best teachers in my life, Mr. Sohota.
Okay.
He was just out of this world, and he found me willing to know and willing to change.
Ready.
And he opened my way completely, and he's still one of my founders.
Amazing.
That man, yes.
Wow. I guess we all need a turning point, I guess, in our lives.
Yes.
A moment that hits us so hard, you change.
I completely changed.
Tell me, what was the real reason the whole class failed?
No, I think the teacher was to blame, really. I mean, we because all of them, those who repeated, some new teacher was got to repeat it, and they've done well in life, many of them thereafter.
Yes. So it was just a moment, I guess, because...
Yes. Well, I think in my history, I needed it. It made a change in my life. An attitude to learning has completely changed.
What type of person were you before that?
I just went to school and I just listened and I just did well. I was always number one anyway.
Okay.
So this is the problem. But I realized it takes more than you got to put an effort. From there, when I went on all my life, I knew it depended on an effort I have to put in.
Yeah.
That's all.
Amazing. Yeah. I know a lot of people will talk about their own turning point because most people have a turning point, and you're lucky to find it when you're young, I guess.
I'm very, I thank God for it.
Yeah.
It happened early in life. It really changed my life completely.
Do you still reflect to that moment often?
Oh, I do. I look. That's why I tell anybody about it, because it really changed what I became thereafter.
And up at 6, we're talking about early teens.
Oh, well, yes. I was, when I failed, I was 13. Yes.
Yeah, it's an important moment, and I'm glad you shared it with us. And you cruise from there, I imagine. How does it happen from there?
Well, I usually just decided if anybody beat me, I would make a decision I'll beat him, unless he's supernatural. And that's what I did all my life. And anybody beat me, certainly in the subject I liked, because when you start in JC was arithmetic, mathematics, science, geography. Yeah. I just would decide if you beat me, I must beat you next time, and that I made it a point to beat you.
That's competitiveness doesn't apply to all of us, and your words sound like you became very competitive. Is it a trait that you carried through your life?
Well, my father made me believe you do anything, you must do well, and you must always be number one. And that was in part of me. I know in the first year, JC, which was at Johannesburg Bantu High School, in Western Native Township.
That's in Gauteng.
Yes, it's where the late Archbishop Tutu also studied. He was 2 classes ahead of me.
Okay.
Yes. You see, when I got the first year of JC, I finished JC, I was number 3. And a close friend of mine who also became a doctor, is late now, was number 4. We finished the year as 3, 4. The 2 people who beat us in the first Form 1. And during that break between end of Form 1 and start of Form 2, as we were playing in Sofar Town, David Maseko, who was my friend, we asked David, why are we not number 1, number 2? And David says, yeah, you are right. He used to say, you are right, Mkhalabi. He used to say, we are right, Mkhalabi, to me. And he said, from next year, Nalowena will compete for 1 and 2. And that remained the case until we passed metric.
Wow. That's incredible.
We just beat them. By the time we got to Form 3, they never thought of, they competed from number 3 downwards. 1 and 2 were occupied already.
Like a South African Soccer League.
Yeah.
One is always one team.
Yeah.
The rest are competing at the bottom.
At the bottom, yes.
That's incredible, eh? How do you move to Johannesburg from war at the time?
No, it was. We used to call it Great North. It was the Transvaal, Northern Transvaal.
Ah, yes.
That's where I came from.
Yeah.
Well, my brother was a teacher at Johannesburg Bantu High School.
Okay.
He was a chief English master at the Johannesburg Bantu High School. So when I passed standard 6, my father said, I must go to Marion Hill in Natal. And he said to his father, yes, I'll take him there. Of course, there's a man who really looked after my secondary education, looked after my BSc education. my elder brother, Prof. Ephraim Mokgokong. So he decided, he says, when we left, we traveled together. He says, the old man is not right. Well, you're going to study at Johannesburg Bantu High School. How can I send you to any other high school when I'm teaching at Johannesburg Bantu High School? When I teach other people's children, I must be able to teach my brother there.
That's true.
And he took me there.
Huh. And was it a relatively decent time there?
Oh, it was. It was. Johannesburg Bantu High School, I mean, Desmond Tutu are not a mystery. They were well taught. We were well taught. I was in the same debating team as the Archbishop at the place. He was, of course, a linguist. He was a man of languages. I was the mathematical side.
Jeez.
That's right.
Your older brother sounds like he was a lot older than you.
Yes.
Tell me about the pecking order, so to speak.
Right. The first born in our family was another brother of mine who was a teacher. He is the father of good people. One of them is Ephraim Mokgokong.
Okay.
He was a teacher. He married a Xhosa lady who came from Transkei, who was a science and mathematics teacher. When he left, he was principal of Pimville High.
Oh, okay.
But he left because of Bantu education. They went to Swaziland.
Okay.
The second born was a teacher, married to Sorote, who was a teacher. The third born is the one who took over the reins of education when my father was pensioned.
Yes.
And the fourth one was another teacher, lady teacher, who taught. When I went to repeat Standard 6 in 1948, I stayed with her in Butokwa. And the fifth one was also a teacher, married by another teacher. They lived in Mashashan, married to the Mashaus. Then the sixth one, who's still alive, was 94 years today.
Wow.
Now, from that seven, I think she was the brightest.
Okay.
But she was not given the chance to study in the sciences, unfortunately, because she was a woman. A decision that my father and I quarreled about when I was a man. I challenged him for having treated her but she was very bright.
What is it about her that you remember that makes you say she was very bright?
Oh, she always passed with distinctions. Always.
Jeez.
She really was. She's still alive. And she's very healthy. I think healthier than me. Though I'm healthy. I'm not easy to beat in health, but she's very healthy.
Still strong.
She's 94 years now.
What career did she follow?
Teacher.
Oh, teacher as well. Yeah.
She's a teacher.
You come from a strong family of teachers.
Yes.
And wasn't it almost obvious that you were going to be a teacher?
No, in fact, this is another thing. When my matric results came in, you see, we were from a village where my father was in charge of the post. So the results came, they used to come on the 15th of December. See, now to these days, you people come, you get result late.
In Jan.
No. The telegram came and I was sitting with her, we were at home that December on the 15th, and I looked at it. My father had already looked at the telegram, and he gave me the telegram, and I had passed.
Yeah.
And he then went away. He then showed everybody. And he said, what do you want to, before I could answer, my elder sister said he's going to be a doctor. So he went away, 15 minutes, he came back, he said, is that true you want to be a doctor? I said, yes, I hadn't even thought of it.
It was the first time it crossed your mind?
First time it crossed my mind. Such that later, when applications had to be done, and my father thought I was going to a medical school, I said, no, old man, I'm going to do 3 years of science. I'm a scientist. Then at the end of the BSc, I will then go and do medicine. And
then you'll branch into MBCHB.
Yes.
Jeez. Some people see that as a long route.
No, I was young anyway. I didn't even, I think seeing how long I lived, I was right. I still had too many years to live.
It's an interesting story because no one inspired the medical doctor in you at all, any time before that.
No. I don't even know him. I haven't asked her even today why she thought I should be a doctor.
And she's the 94-year-old one,
yes.
Is that? Yes.
She's still alive. She's here in Pretoria.
Wow.
But I've never really asked why she thought I should be a doctor. I never asked.
Finally, we found the person whom we should say thank you to.
Yes.
For creating what became the Mokgokong wave. Wow, that's a fascinating story. Have you had conversations with her about it at all? Or you say you still haven't asked her?
We talk about it jokingly. We just laugh. We remember the moment and the day very well.
Oh, does she take credit at all?
Well, she does.
Yeah. If it wasn't for me.
Yeah.
I like that moment. It's a special moment in all of us. I think we need support. Was there strong academic support for each other? Because traditionally, families that we grew up in back in those days, one always took over from the other in terms of supporting the parents in relation to raising the kids. Like the elders will take over from the parents. Was that system clear in your family?
Well, it's my brother, the second brother. We know we're 3 brothers. The one who was previously one of the principals of University of the North. He did all, because by the time I went to high school, my father was a pensioner. He took my education right through. So my education is all that depends on his complete support, financial and otherwise.
Where's your mom in the story?
My mom was a good mother. She studied up to standard 6. But she was a mother who backed the wishes of my father for her children. She did very well.
Yeah.
She was a great cook and a great mother. That was she lived until she was 90.
Jeez. Your family lives long.
As they do. My father lived to 80, but my mother to 90.
Yeah. They say men struggle to survive after the wife leaves, but women carry on easily. Yes. I don't know how true is that.
Well, I don't know. Well, I just know that the women, it's the hormonal background. They live longer than men. Yes.
Yeah, no, it's a fascinating fact that. And now you finish the Bantu school. You make reference to Sophia Town.
Yes.
Describe that time, your memory in relation to that time when you were in high school and you're becoming Lachosi.
No, it was, I lived with my cousin, Mrs. Mokgokong. She was my aunt's daughter. She was a social worker. I think the first black social worker around the townships of Johannesburg then. I lived with, they owned a stand at number 7 Edie Street, Sofata.
Wow.
And I stayed with them for 5 years. And as their child and so on. It was wonderful. I enjoyed it. Still think there's never been a township as well built as Sofata. And we were proud of it. I'm still proud of having had the opportunity to live for 5 years in Sofata. It taught you a lot about life and black people in particular.
The stories I've heard, and correct me and do help us to add to the knowledge, Sophia Town, is that it was very multiracial in its design.
Yes, it was. Because along the main road, the road that goes to Maritzburg from town, there were Chinese, Indians, and all. They were all there. You found them. The big shops which were around there were people who owned the sites in that area. Even the bakery in Sofa Town, where we used to enjoy running to go and buy warm loaf of bread. Used to be very tasty. Yes, it was. How it was built. You know, the stormwater drainage. Those drains were so big, we as lighties could walk under there from one corner to another. Under the street, standing upright.
Yeah.
And during the rain, after it's passed, you stand and listen to the water running underneath.
Wow.
It was so well built. Nothing there ever was built as Sofa Town was built. It was perfect.
Who built it? It's the apartheid government.
Well, it was before the initial apartheid, but anyway, it was a pro-white government. It was United Party.
Okay. It was the English.
Well, the English influence party which governed. You know, South Africa, the British won.
Yes.
And we blame them for it. We shouldn't. Come Union Day, they gave it back to South Africans. The mistake they made is that when they gave it back, they didn't give it back equally to all races. But they didn't keep it on. Our hatred for Britain is misplaced, as far as I'm concerned. It's that the mistake they made was made all over the world. The human species is very racist. All over the world has been racist. And the whites always did that everywhere. It's not particularly for us. It's how we come out of this thing. If we don't look after ourselves, we'll remain poor forever.
The racism you speak of, does it then, as you put it, leave yourself as an individual and a community of the same color to come together and make sure that you succeed as a collective?
They do so, just like Chinese did in Singapore, everywhere. People come from all over. Europe was conquered, changed hands, and everywhere one imperial power taking from another. It was the order of the day to conquer and imperialize. That's what was happening all over the world. It's nothing peculiar, but it's how you come out of it. You see, we have come out of it. All we have, I think, is hatred. We haven't developed pride and love for ourselves. That's what we lack.
Is it taught hatred? Because you can teach someone to hate themselves.
We teach our children. This is trouble. That's what is happening in South Africa. So we teach our children to think color and to hate according to color. That's not the thing. I always believed we suffered a lot when we developed as we did during the apartheid era. Some of us got to where we were, and people think it was easy. There were moments when we spent hours feeling damaged alone. And all you say is that I'll show them what I can do. And you go back and do it.
It fires you up. You get more.
Yes.
You want to win more.
That's right.
Jeez. An interesting part of the story you tell is how Sophia Town was built by, I guess in that context, the English, who then gave it to South Africans. But they gave it to all South Africans because it became a cosmopolitan and multiracial environment. But then it gets taken away. Where were you during that time of the takeover, so to speak?
I can tell you the first takeover of people to Meadowlands. It's when Fort Hare had closed because of a boycott, and I happened to be home in 70th Street when they took the first people to Sofa Town.
To Meadowlands.
To Meadowlands.
Yeah.
I was there.
What?
So to us, it was a painful loss. It's still a painful loss. You know, when I go to Sofa Town, I feel like crying because I think one thing that was ever done for black people, done with love and quality, was Sofata. There's never been any such thing thereafter that's done for black people with love and quality.
Yeah. You've lived through apartheid and all that came with it, and which we'll touch on some of the stories, but you'd also lived through a transition in South Africa. And now we are recording this 30 years after our transition. Has black people done something for themselves in your observation as Grootman in this context?
No, I think they have, but I think we haven't developed to make ourselves believe as winners. We develop in ourselves this feeling of having been offended and we must hit back. That's the wrong attitude.
Yeah.
You see, the human species is the most selfish species God has ever made. So racism, to me, is the core of the species. It doesn't come as an added thing. It's easy to develop it because the base is there. The fruit, the fruit to plant is there. So it grows very easily.
The building blocks of it are there.
That's right.
Yeah. So it's easy to demonstrate it.
Yes. What we should have done is what other colonized countries have. Canada, India, United States of America. When you get to do things, do it to show you can do better than the next one. That's what, not to fix up the next one. That should not be the rule.
Lamont.
No.
Yeah. It should be, you're doing it for yourself, I guess,
right.
as well. Yeah. And have we succeeded as the blacks that took over in 1994?
Well, I think the country's condition has degenerated, unfortunately. I think we're coming to a point where we're starting to think and things might develop. We haven't done well. And I can tell you, I do believe, as an old ANC member, where we went wrong. We forgot to educate the poor people of this country. We forgot to do that. We meant to make them vote for us forever without educating them. Our education, we didn't spend time working on what education the people. I believe it should be compulsory and completely compulsory up to grade 12. That would make parents, even the ones who live in Mkukus, responsible for education of their children, which they don't. 90% of these people don't even know what their children are doing at school. See, because the parents haven't taken responsibility for their education. And of course, those of us who are the know-all, we haven't spent time saying what education must the children have. That we have not done, and I can challenge any of the people. And that we couldn't have done well. If we had done well, we wouldn't be where we are. That takes basic education. There are lots of things to point at, but what about higher education? Why should we have a university system that produces so many useless degrees? When we want to develop country, we know the country develop. Why do we teach our children degrees that won't help the country develop and they end up not getting jobs? We haven't done well at all. And then we promised people who would build them houses, which was wrong from the beginning. You can't do it. So the people come and they build mkukus all over the place. Once a mkuku area is developed, you can't manage it properly. And that's the basis, the reason for our terrible failure. And it will continue to fail if we don't stop the nonsense.
A Mkuku community starts with one, and then once it's 100, you have to keep it going, even as government, by supplying them with the required resources now.
Yes.
And now it's gone.
It's gone, yes, it's wrong.
Yeah.
Because you can't let people live where there's supposed to be a river.
No.
Why do you allow them to say to them? In fact, that shows no respect for the population. We should never ever allow this to happen. People should only build where experts say you can build safely. And we should divide the areas such that there's breathing space between them, which we haven't done. So we've failed.
Is this reversible?
Well, we can stop it continuing.
Okay.
We can stop. We must start somewhere. I believe let's start somewhere.
Which part of you're a teacher by trade, teacher by profession, and you speak of education as being one of the solutions. If we had to stop today with this horrible situation that we have, which sector of society, in terms of solutions that you'd put on the table, would be the first one to start with?
Well, look, things are government-based. When I went to do high school, I came from a rural area. I'm a rural man. I know how young people grew up who were not working, but when they came to marrying anybody, they went to form bricks for themselves, build a rendezvous, and cut wood from the forest and grass from it, and made a roof and married a person into a house.
Mm-hmm.
Not into a paper house.
No.
I mean, that's a disgrace. You see, I think we should go to, that shows the people love themselves. Now, the people in the Mukukus are the people who come from the rural areas. They know where they came from. They could never do that. They come and do it here in town. Yeah. It shouldn't be allowed.
Education as a solution? You speak of basic education, but education, that's a long-term plan.
Of course it is long-term.
Yeah.
We've been governing ourselves for 30 years. We have not touched it. If anything, I think people are poorer than they were when we took over. We should never have allowed this to happen. If we had educated them, they wouldn't be so poor.
Yeah.
Our people can't even start a spaza shop that's profitable. Because the qualities, if we had good basic education, they would know that there's 1 + 2 makes 3, and they would work properly. And they would come around the simple basic economics we did in arithmetic in primary schools. The basic that you never use money, capital money, to take a girlfriend out.
No.
Doesn't work like that.
That's not business.
No, it's not business.
Yeah.
Now, they don't have that because they don't have proper basic education.
Yeah.
They don't.
And you say we haven't done much to change that. We have an education system.
No, it's you must read about education in other countries, in other nations. I mean, take a nation that many people do not like, called Taiwan. Came from communist China into the islands around there. The first thing they did was they said, what must an average Taiwanese be like? They said it must be educated properly. Then they spend time to say what's proper education. We have never done that. We have jumped steps of what we should follow. But do you see that is education? And when they had finished, they said it must take us 50 years. It took them less than 30 years. And it's one of the most progressive country. The communist China we love, but their per capita of income is economy is better than communist China.
If it's better than communist China, then it's better than a lot of parts of the world.
Of course it is. Per capita. I'm taking per capita. I'm not taking the total. China is big. I mean, GP of China is very difficult to beat because they have billion people, billions of people. Those people are hundreds of people. We're talking about the per capita is better.
It's a better matrix, a better measuring tool.
Yes.
Yeah. And with regards to what we have here, naturally the system that's not working and the results of it will continue. When you look to the future of this country of ours, with what we have already, what do you see?
Well, I believe it or not, as an old ANC member, I think the shock we had of this result of voting now.
The 2024 elections.
Yes, the 24 election.
Yeah.
I think we're going to start again. We're starting to think we're not gods. We have a lot to do. We're going to look back. I mean, there's lots of wrong things. I mean, how did educated people who have so educated that they put out the Freedom Charter, which I believe no political organization in the world has ever thought of a thing like the Freedom Charter. It's such a wholly correct thing that I'm proud to have, in my lifetime, been a member of the African National Congress.
Yeah.
But I can't be proud of what we're doing now.
Have we done justice to the Freedom Charter?
Of course we have not. If we do justice, we wouldn't be wrong. Just starting with education. Have you had any people sit and working out an education system that will produce progress in this country? No, it is not. But we tickle around with the pass marks, bring it down to 30%. I mean, that's a crazy thing. When it's 70%, you don't know. I mean, what is that? It's just to get numbers. It's a crazy world.
Sure. And we're stuck with it.
We're stuck with it.
I will ask it again because I'm really curious in your outlook, your future outlook, when most of us won't be here anymore. What type of country will we end up with if we carry on this particular lane we are on?
Look, you came to my place. You went off Rigel Avenue. Do you know Rigel Avenue when I still worked in Durban? It was built then. It was the east-west outlet out of Pretoria.
Oh.
Beautiful winding road it was. Well serviced. You go today, we have potholes in this. Whole thing needs resurfacing. Nobody has done anything in 30 years to it. I mean, a thing like that should never happen.
It's a small detail.
It's a small detail. Yet, we spend time fighting municipalities. It's not municipality. They are workers, civil workers, who belong to unions, who know that these things should be done and they are not done. It's got nothing to do with the municipalities. Many municipalities administer what they are doing, they are failing to administer. But not the work. I mean, there's a manager of Tshwane who should find out what are the streets like in Tshwane. I retired from Medunsa many years ago, but I was one of the people who built the hospital called Mediclinic Lahai. And in 1992, I still use that office when I go there. I started practicing part-time as head of Medunsa after we opened it. I've retired only the February this year, end of February. I still use that room at the moment. Now I'm telling you about that place. Do you know for months, and it doesn't matter whether DA is in charge or ANC in it, we've been more longer after ANC than DA. We have traveled in the main street there with sewage all these years, as if it's right for us to live. There are refuse thrown all over the place near the street. And that place was built by Mangop as a showpiece. It was beautiful when we opened that place. I mean, why should a thing like that happen when there are people who are paid, who earn who's supposed to look after it? It's not the municipality. It's the workers. The workers are letting us down.
I guess those who point at municipality will say the workers are badly managed. That's probably where the argument comes in that regard.
Aha. You see, I always tell people, yes, I say I come from the 5 years I lived in Sofar Town. I lived with my relatives who were ordinary workers. They bought a stand and they built a house in 70 Street. We used to meet there. But the workers used to come there who come from my village. On Saturday and Sunday, they used to meet there. They used to take about our firm. My work, our firm. Do you hear the present workers talk of their work? No. It's Anglo-American work.
Are you referring to a sense of pride and ownership of
being part of the job? Of being, our firm loses motors. They used to come and talk. They don't take ownership of what they are doing, but they earn a living from it. It's sad. That's what is killing this country.
Sure. That cuts across. It's not exclusive.
Yes.
Do you sometimes look at and say you find it also in private sector?
Yes. I find it everywhere. I find it even in healthcare.
Sure.
Where I spend my time.
My biggest worry, Prof, you've educated so many professionals. You brought into the country a lot of people who serve us so well now. Over your time as a lecturer, and not only that, but also a leader of a school. My biggest worry about this country is also doctors that struggle to find jobs in 2024. And that is clearly a symptom of a much bigger problem. What is your observation in that regard?
You know the statement you are making. We who are in healthcare, we know we don't have enough doctors to meet us, even in the public healthcare system we have. Now, to have them finish and not get employed simply because of money, it's a crying shame. It really is. I can't say anymore except that it's a crying shame. We haven't yet produced adequate doctors. When I took over the Medical University of Southern Africa, and by the time I retired, we were the biggest medical school in terms of producing number of doctors every year. I did it deliberately, looking at the fact that we do need doctors and we won't make it at the rate where all the medical schools are going for a very, very long time. We all know that. And the base for training is sufficient for us to produce a lot more doctors. If we looked at it, if we looked at what we need to have and getting there, the trouble is we are not planning with foresight as to what we want to have. If we have to do that, we by now would be getting near there. Maybe to reach a stage where we can say we produce doctors we can employ. Now, we are sending them into public health care. Public health care that depends on medical aids to fund them. It's another third party in the scope of healthcare, which to my opinion was a sadness to have been introduced. But it's sad. We throw them there. So they come there, they're paid by a third party. That's got nothing to do with healthcare.
Administrators.
It's a crazy thing.
Yeah. So you're saying the country needs the doctors. The system is not designed to hire them.
Yes, that's the situation.
But the country needs all the doctors that are sitting at home.
Look, there are many clinics in public sector today, and I'll say it publicly, who cut during the day and say, we can't see more than this. Many. It's not a particular place to point. All provinces run through that trouble. And we as administrators, as people who govern, do nothing about removing this thing. I mean, we should make sure it never happens at all. So 30 years of freedom, as we call it, but we haven't challenged the points that make the poor poorer, the suffering worse. We have done nothing to do that. It's sad.
It is. I have a friend who lives in the Eastern Cape, a medical doctor who's been unemployed for 2 years.
Yes.
They do locums there and there, but it's not sustainable.
Of course it's not.
Because you're dealing. And what happens then to a medical doctor who's sitting at home for 2 years? And because this knowledge, one, is needed in society, but also they need to get this knowledge out and refresh it all the time.
Yes.
What happens then to the brain of a medical doctor sitting at home?
Because they spend time training. To train so many years to end of it, you can't work. It's killing. That's what it's doing.
Yeah.
It should never happen.
I want to go back to your history. I want to go back to your challenges of how you ended up at a school of medicine or BSc, who you said the influence was clear, that the sister intervened. But the process of going to a medical school or a science university for that matter, during apartheid, and you said it earlier, Jorge, we don't know that it wasn't easy. We see you now and we say, well, he finished, so it must have been okay. What were some of the basic challenges of a young man, Otswang North, is now in Gauteng and wants to go and study medicine? What were some of the most basic challenges?
Well, to start with, very few were taken into the medical schools there. The main medical school that took black people was Wits.
Oh.
Right. Natal had just opened. When I got to that level, Natal had just opened. In fact, I was in the 5th class that finished in Natal. So you can see it was really at the beginning of...
Brand new.
So Wits is the ones that took, nobody else trained. Cape Town only started taking black people when I was already a teacher in medicine.
Yeah.
It's later, they just didn't take black people. And then you had to get permission from government to go and train in that school.
In Wits or Natal in your case?
Wits or Natal. In fact, when I went to do medicine in Natal, I was admitted. I had a space in Wits, I had a space in Natal. But I'd spent so much time living in Johannesburg that I wanted to go into Natal. So I cheated my family and they didn't know. I had a telegram to go to Wits until I had a telegram to get to Natal. I showed them the Natal one and they applied everything and I went to start in Natal.
So you held on to the Wits one for a little longer?
Yes, until the Durban people said something about it.
Yes.
Then I went to Natal.
The permission, government permission, what exactly was the requirements for that permission?
No, you're going to be in a white environment, in white school. Those are the harmful things of apartheid. Those are the harmful. But if Medunsa was never created, we would have never got anywhere near producing enough doctors. We still haven't produced enough. We would never have got there at all.
I want to go to the creation of Medunsa, but I'm still curious about the challenges of entering. Now you're a student. The government has given you permission to study with white people.
Yes.
And now you go to Natal. What is the environment like for...
Well, in Natal, the medical school was made. Remember, it was started by United Party. It was really a medical school for natives. That's what it was originally.
Okay.
But and by the time it opened, you could take natives and their close relatives, which were coloureds and Indians, a limited number. So it became a non-white medical
Medical
school
Yeah.
in a white university. So the faculty of medicine in Natal took only non-whites.
Was it different teaching?
No,
different resources?
it was top-class quality teaching.
Yeah.
There was not. That's one thing we must say. That medical school was never started with inferior curriculum. No. In fact, the teachers they got there, many of them were British. That studied in Britain were great teachers. Great teachers that I will forever respect. They were great teachers. They didn't worry about color too much.
So the only issue was being in the same classroom with white people.
Not in Natal, there were none.
There were none.
Not when I trained, no.
Yes.
It's at Wits you could be in class with whites,
Okay.
but not in Natal. It was all non-white.
And the whites that wanted to be medical doctors in Natal?
They went to Wits in Cape Town and Free State and Pretoria. They had other medical schools.
When you look back, what was the real reason for even creating the Bantu version of a medical school in Natal? What was inspiring and pushing for that?
Look, the needs touched the United Party type of government that we will not meet the health needs in the country unless we opened a medical school.
Okay.
And they had to allow a faculty to be there, a faculty of medicine, but to teach only black people. I think the Natal people themselves didn't like the situation, but it was better than nothing.
Okay.
And it started.
When you say the Natal people, the university.
The university.
Or the white university.
Yes, because it was a white university.
Yes. And now they're letting these natives come in.
Well, I think they didn't like the fact that they can't even be trained there.
Yes.
You see?
Yeah. They had to go somewhere else.
Somewhere else, yes.
Does it change, because being a doctor takes some time, does it change during your tenure as a student to now accommodate other races?
It didn't change in my time. I mean, I still taught at that medical school. That's where I developed. There were no white students except at postgraduate level.
Okay.
I taught a lot of postgraduate white people in Natal when I was a teacher. That could be done, not undergraduate. No.
Did it produce a lot of doctors? And this is a twofold question. Was there also interest amongst black people to be doctors?
Of course there was, but there were fewer taken because they used generalized levels of entering medical school, which were very high because black people studied in poor schools and they didn't produce enough people with that level of pass to enter medicine, medical training.
So you were stopped by your own high school education before you even was even interested?
Yes.
Yes.
In fact, I think you'll come to where Medunsa started.
Yes.
I'll tell you because you'll hear how the type of teaching at school had a lot to do with everything.
How much time do you spend at Natal? Do you complete your degree entirely as MBCHB in that regard?
Yes.
Do you hang around?
Well, at the time I qualified, I was one of the first people to do postgraduate studies in Natal. One of the first people to do so.
Yeah. Your interest, what was it?
I'm a gynecologist.
Yes. But what pushed that interest?
Well, it's again I loved anything surgical.
Okay.
But I was performing better in gynecology than in the other surgical disciplines.
Yeah.
So I specialized in it.
Did you rush to go serve the community as a medical doctor, or it was almost natural for you to say, let me teach first?
No. It's simple. When I finished my internship, I was, in fact, as I was doing internship, I decided I was going to do general practice for 5 years, then go and specialize in gynecology after 5 years.
Okay.
Then that very first year when I was a medical intern, I traveled to Mokgokong during my 2 weeks holiday, and I spent with my father.
Back home?
Yes, back home. And the last day, after when I was going back and during the holiday, I was still medical intern, he asked me, "What are you doing next year?" I said to him, "I'll be practicing in Attridgeville." I'd got a house and practicing rooms in Attridgeville in Pretoria. And I said, "I'll practice there for 5 years. After that, I'm going back to Natal to specialize." He said nothing. We had dinner. Then the time of prayer, he prayed for a long time. But the prayer was simply that God must help his son who thinks money is everything and everything. By the time he finished, he had changed my idea altogether of going to be a general practitioner. So I went right back to Natal. The very following day, first day I arrived at work, I went to see the head of obstetrics and gynecology. And I said, "I want to come and do a postgraduate job."
Immediately?
As soon as I finished internship, he said, "Hold on." He looked at my results. He says, "Oh, you're a good boy. You have a job." And this is how it happened. My father actually shoved me with his prayer into immediate specialization.
He did well.
It's the greatest thing that's happened for me in my whole life. Because those 5 years, if I went there and made money, I would have found it difficult to go back. It's the help of God, really. It is. I always say it's the help of God. I look back at it as nothing else but the help of God.
When you say that it would have possibly made you stay there and continue to want to make money, have you observed that from other medical doctors?
Of course it's happened. The others did. Very few people came back from general practice to specialize. And then they were making money. There were no medical aid. The doctors
had cash.
Were paid directly and they were doing very well. There was no middle body in between in getting the money. All the middle age is a middle body that's made rich people and not the doctors.
Yeah.
The doctors are the ones suffering the most from it.
They're like farmers. They produce the goods, but they make the least money.
That's right.
Yeah, it's the middle and the end.
That's right.
That makes the most money. Wow, interesting. I didn't realize there was almost an Attridgeville detour that you almost made.
Oh, I did. I had a house and everything. I didn't even go to cancel it. I just didn't go. But my man who had married my sister, who helped me, he lived in Attridgeville. He went and canceled everything.
Yeah, and you went back to learn.
And I went back to learn. It was the greatest decision. Well, one of the great decisions I took.
Yeah.
Yes.
And now you're a student again. You carry on.
Yes.
How long does that take? Specialization, what is it, 3 years?
Well, I started specializing in 1963. In 65, I did a higher diploma that made me a junior lecturer.
Okay.
In 67, I became a complete lecturer. In 70, I became a senior lecturer.
Wow.
That's my history.
You didn't at any point feel, I have to go practice all this knowledge?
No, once I started teaching, when I knew I had the gift to teach, once I started doing research, I knew I had the gift to research. So I couldn't really go out and do anything.
Yeah.
No, I became a perfectionist. That's all I did.
In a past conversation you and I have had, you speak about universities now don't do as much extensive research as during your times. What exactly is that observation?
They just aren't. They are not doing, for instance, in my day, you could not apply to be head of a department of clinical medicine in any way unless you were either doing a doctoral degree or you have completed a doctoral degree. Today they get appointed without doctoral degrees.
Meaning that they're not researching anything.
They're not researching anything.
Huh. What is the long-term implication of this lack of research?
Well, we will always depend on other nations. Their findings and so on will follow what they find because people are researching everywhere. You must go. I mean, I spent almost a year in Britain in 1976 as a research fellow. You see the quality of research these people do. It's something else. So you can't just be head of it, teaching what you call institution. You must be able to say in our findings, this is the thing.
Not making reference to some people's findings
all the time.
Yeah,
this is the problem, and that's what's happened now.
Let's make reference to the COVID period. South Africa, till today, is acknowledged very highly as a country that was able to find interesting things with the COVID virus. Doesn't that speak to something about us as a special nation when it comes to
there were researchers. There were a couple of researchers. There could have been more. The people who researched I respect them. They were great people. They did a lot of great work. But we could have been more. There are too many of us who are not researching. This is the trouble.
And it has
and certain diseases will be prevalent in our societies, in our communities, more than anywhere else. So we should be researching.
And is that the real reason why research must be specific to a country in that regard?
No, some of them, yes.
Yeah.
Some of them. I mean, some diseases are everywhere. But others are, we've done a lot of research, for instance, in HIV. But how much have we done? So we still haven't completely conquered it. We're not fighting the right things.
Yeah. Because the dynamics of a country, a society is very different country to country, area to area.
Yes, it is true.
How do you end up in Britain?
No, I was sent as a Anglo-American Chairman's Fund researcher, fellow. They sent me for a year. Yeah. Anglo has supported a lot of education in this country. We must forget the fact that we call it a white company, but it's helped everybody who had the mental gift to do something.
It's true.
I went there during my sabbatical leave, and they paid for my everything overseas. Oh. And I continued earning. My family could still live. So I could do that. It was the most free learning time I've ever had. And I value that time because I would never have been exposed so much to British healthcare as I was that time.
You speak highly of it then and probably now. What stood out about the British healthcare at the time?
Well, first, that's the first country that talked of national availability. Yes, the very first. The first thing after winning World War II, besides worrying about communists and all this nonsense, is the first thing they did after World War is to make healthcare in Britain available to everybody. And when I was there as a research fellow in 1976, they hadn't yet put the screw that you have to be British. The whole of Europe, doesn't matter whether it's France or something, Germany, they all cross the channel to be treated in Britain. But now they got wise and stopped that. You have to be a British citizen to be treated.
Yes.
It's because in healthcare, they've always researched. And I'm not surprised that they got to this. They are not satisfied to get any situation. They want to find is it the right situation they are in.
Yeah.
And they did it the right way. And I came back from it with convinced this is the only thing we should get. And when I became head of Medunsa, that was my inaugural article, and that paper I gave to ANC people.
What was at the heart of the paper?
Simple, that we need national health insurance.
What year was that?
1992.
Jeez. That's a...
And I knew about all sorts of healthcare types the world over. It was the best in the world. It's still, I think, the best. It's got its troubles. Everything good has its weaknesses.
When you observe it now, what seems to be its basic challenges?
Well, I think it's again the human being. It's the doctors who work in it who are causing it. You see, what they did is that they had lots of people who were not full-time employees who were working in the system. And the easy thing is to work at slow rate when you are in the public, what you call, and work fast when you are in your private rooms.
Because there you're making money.
Yeah,
here you're getting a salary.
That's their weakest point.
Yeah.
And I looked at it because when I was there, I used to operate slates which belonged to other people would say to me, Ephraim, you do the work. I'll be busy doing something else. Then I do the operation and they do something else. You see, that type of thing is not. Otherwise, it's a perfect system.
Yeah.
Right. And I will support it here in South Africa. The only thing is that we're jumping an important part.
Which is
finding why the public sector healthcare is dysfunctional. We must know that the British took a long time to study that. We must study that first.
Yeah.
Otherwise, we're going to repeat the same rubbish in the national health system.
Are you saying we're building a beautiful car with a bad engine and we're going to suffer in the long run?
With an engine we don't know. That's what I'm saying.
Yes.
I support it. I mean, I was in the committee anyway. I support it. Yeah. I've never felt well that you must be looked after because you have money. To me, it's sinful. No, totally sinful. So everybody should be looked after, whether it comes out of a mkuku or not, the same way, as long the condition must decide where you go, not the money in your pocket. That I believe in.
Has the medical aid system, which we lived through for many, many years, made healthcare classist in that regard?
No. The medical aid system has made payment of healthcare in private sector possible.
Okay.
Right, that they've done.
Which is a positive.
It's a positive thing.
Yeah.
Now, if you take that to be part of the funding of your national health, remember, not everybody pays for medical aid. So you'll be charging the medical aid people the normal tax plus tax of medical aid, a double tax. It's not. I mean, to me, the politicians must sort this out. I don't think it's right. It's not, and the British system didn't involve the medical aid system when I was there. Not at all.
It was free medical care for everyone. It's paid through tax.
Yes.
Yeah.
Through tax.
But then those that are raising their hand and saying, but this is not good, are the very medical aid system. And the private healthcare that are saying, David Mashabela, who's poor, doesn't have money to pay, should not walk through our door, because here we offer one bed, one person per room. It's a hotel system.
It's a hotel system, but healthcare shouldn't be a hotel system. You know, when it comes to quality of healthcare, is private healthcare far bigger quality of public healthcare? I'm very doubtful, because the advantage of a public healthcare that's working well is that it's multi disciplinary. If you come in and you have a pain in your chest, I would call somebody who looks at the heart, call somebody who looks at the bones to make a decision on your treatment. Yeah. So it's a more composite, better treatment. And that's how to look at it.
The public health care, does it offer the same? Hospitals like Steve Biko has spoken highly.
They ought to do that. Yeah. They ought to do that. Because when you come in, you see, and running properly in public health care, like a teaching hospital like Steve Biko, as you say, is that you are in there. A junior doctor will see you. Intermediate doctor will see you. Senior doctor will see you. And you'll decide, let's get opinion of another type of discipline to come and help us. In private, you don't easily get that.
Because everyone they call is a cost.
That's right.
So then am I correct in saying that we should multiply Steve Biko 100, 1,000 times?
Well, I don't know how. You see, the trouble is they have bigger waiting list. And they don't have equipment as much as in the private sector. Yeah. This is the trouble. But that is not because it's a public, it's because public sector's money has been mismanaged. That's all.
What is at the heart of the South African healthcare system? If you had to sum it up, that's the problem with it, and it can be solved overnight.
No, it's how it's funded. It's the main trouble. Okay. It's funded badly.
How is it funded, based on your understanding?
You see, you fund X amount of money, and not the X amount of money is used. Okay. It's used for something else.
Okay.
You see?
Yes.
It's this sickening tendering system they have, which passes money to people just because you know them. Yes. This is the trouble.
Are you saying if we attend to that, we solve most of the problems?
Oh, if we can get the money going right, we'll be able to employ more people who won't say there are no posts for doctors. There will be posts to doctors and nurses and everybody.
Let's go back to your life. When do you start? When does Medunsa start, and what was the reason for it?
As far as I know, it was simply because Natal University, which was built for black people, the medical school, was now producing very few black doctors. Okay. And they were producing either Indian or colored doctors more.
Okay.
So a committee called Advisory to the Bantu Education and Development, led by the late Dr. Cingo, came to Natal to us to discuss the matter with the university to increase intake of black students so that the need by black people can be met.
Yes.
Now, this is true. I was a senior teacher in Natal then. Our dean gave them 5 minutes to deal with them and said, don't come and talk to us about the problem of the black man. The problem is the government. You can't train a doctor as the person with Bantu education.
You can't turn a Bantu educated person into a doctor.
Yes. And they were out of that. They came to see me and I took them for lunch and they told me the story. At that meeting, they decided they're going to see the government. It wasn't the Afrikaner who started. That group of fellows went to say, Natal is not the answer.
What year was this, give or take? I'm trying to picture history.
Well, we opened in Medunsa in 1967. It must have been, when was I there? It must have been 1964, 1965.
Okay. So they're meeting with an apartheid government?
Yes.
Yes.
They went to meet an apartheid government from there. And they told them they want a medical school. It was black people who wanted a medical school. And then the Afrikaners decided, all right, we'll give you a medical school.
Why put it in Ga-Rankuwa?
Well, there's now the apartheid issue. They had to put it somewhere.
Okay. Because Ga-Rankuwa was a Botswana at the time.
Yeah, but what they did first is that they moved the boundary. The point where it was built, it was in South Africa.
So they moved the boundary by a few meters.
Yes, they did.
I always thought it was in Ga-Rankuwa in Botswana.
It was in South Africa.
And then the Ga-Rankuwa hospital is in Ga-Rankuwa.
Well, they moved the border. And they moved the border, the Ga-Rankuwa hospital becomes into South Africa.
South Africa.
Yes.
So Ga-Rankuwa, Haitoma, is technically not in, it wasn't in Botswana at the time.
When it technically started, Ga-Rankuwa was in Botswana.
Yes, and then
the same government that moved, didn't move the township. It moved the hospital area.
Just a little bit.
Yes, well, it moved its side back. It was back in South Africa. That's all they did.
Wow, that's power.
Yes, that's power.
You can shift the border.
Of course you did.
Because Roslyn, which is a few meters away, is in South Africa.
That was South Africa.
Yes.
Roslyn was built to make sure the people... See, it's one good thing that we never talk about the apartheid government. Didn't create townships and make an effort to get them employed. Roslyn developed to get people of Ga-Rankuwa to be employed. That we must never throw away when we want to praise ourselves. They did, and Roslyn today is a major industrial area coming from that area.
Automotive industrial.
Oh, yes, it is.
Yes. At Watlu in Mamelodi is exactly the same.
Oh, yes, yes. They did.
Utenake, and there's so many areas.
Yes. But when we talk as if they did nothing to meet that. You see, this is the trouble with politics. Is we tell lies and perpetuate the lies. Well, it was wrong to move people. We're not saying it was right, but they did make sure they could get work. They built...
It's close by.
Close by. They tried.
Wow. So they allowed, the apartheid government said, you can have your university, go ahead.
Yes. Then they would. That's how, what you call, I know that because it must have been 64, 65. In 66, then they started hunting virtually the same committee as people who must be there.
As teachers.
Yes. And they came for me.
The way you say it.
And I was a big ANC fellow. And I was very doubtful. I need to do this. But I started talking to important people.
What were you doubting?
No, the idea is perpetuating an apartheid situation with black, white, that I've never believed in color divisions. It's a thing I've never liked. However, to cut a long story short, I kept hesitating until they sent the late C.D. Maribate from Pretoria with the forms for me to fill, to apply.
They went straight to Natal.
Yes.
To fetch you.
Yes, he came to me, and I remember I filled those forms in my office at medical school. So I decided, no, one thing, if a medical school is built, I don't care it's predominantly for Africans, but it has to be good quality curriculum. That's the reason I left. And
when you arrived, was how many years into it? Was Medusa had gone on for a while by then, wasn't it?
Not a while. I was one of the starters of the place.
The chairs were still brand new.
Yes. I was one of the first 5 clinical professors.
Wow.
1978, January.
Yes.
Yes.
Was it a difficult thing to take off? Because like most anything, at the beginning it has teething issues. So what did you struggle with?
When I left Natal, where I was very senior and very respected internationally and in Natal, I knew it wasn't going to be an easy job. Anyway, why should you take an easy job? It's not worth taking. You must take a job, it must look difficult. You must know it's difficult. So I knew it was difficult. I knew the first thing, I was the only black person in the Senate of that medical school for many years.
Wow. So you're saying when it started, it also had white lecturers. It wasn't a black university with black teachers.
Where would you get them from?
Well,
where would you get them? Where were the black teachers then?
Well, I'm thinking you were not the only one teaching.
Virtually I was.
Yes.
Virtually I can't remember who else was teaching. Virtually I was. Wow. And I was the only one. In Senate was clear about one. There was one black person in that Senate for many years. Me alone.
Were the issues that you were dealing with, because Senate deals with not only the politics, but the greater management of the school. Do you remember some of the basic issues you had to deal with, right, when you were the only?
No, the main thing I fought was the curriculum. That the curriculum must be the same as they teach at Wits, Pretoria, everything. And I fought that at the beginning. And one of the biggest victories is that I got that right.
So was there a deliberate intention to dumb it down a little?
Of course, they always, it was a apartheid era. Don't forget, there was an effort. All they can claim at Medusa, they made an effort, but they never succeeded. And they must hate the fact that I traveled from Natal to start there, because I wasn't going to have it. I used to turn a tantrum in a Senate meeting if they talked, absolute tantrum, like a mad person. That's what you do.
Wow.
So you become that everybody gets afraid and listens to you. That's how you put it. You must do some such.
So that's activism in its truest form.
Oh, yes. Oh, yes, for the truth. You must die for the truth.
What was your greatest worry about the dumbing down of the medical education?
Then what type of doctors would you get? No, we want to get doctors who can do anything that a doctor at Wits and Pretoria can do. That's all.
Was your time at Natal the reason you knew the quality that they were offering and that you were already exposed to in Natal?
Well, and I was taught by great people. Those people who taught me, those white men who taught me, I still respect them today. They were and they were young, highly educated professionals who came to start the medical school in Natal. And I had the opportunity to be taught by them. And I thank God that He exposed me to that.
And you knew the quality.
And I knew the quality, yes.
What is the quality of South African medical doctors? It's spoken highly of. From the grandfather of it. What is the quality?
It's very good. They are well taught. They are exposed as a clinical exposition. I think I can't criticize how we produce them. No. I think they are well trained. And they would stand anywhere in the world against anybody in any specialty.
Wow. In any specialty?
Yes. In fact, at the time when I was teaching, our nurses were the best, among the best in the world.
I think they still rate higher. They still rate.
No, not the lot they produce now.
Really?
No.
You
see, one of the things that the ANC did wrong was to kill the nursing training colleges, which were there by the apartheid. Apartheid government did something that very good. They had very good nursing colleges. The 4-year nursing colleges, which girls went, they were paid a small stipend. Some of them could raise families from them. They then had the basics that had ordinary general nursing and midwifery and so on. And that basic made many of them go to get degrees from there. They were the best nurses you could get anywhere. They were not afraid to tell a doctor, we think you're doing the wrong thing. Part of my obstetrics, I was taught by the nurses.
Jeez, imagine that.
That's right.
They're teaching a doctor.
That's right.
Yeah. Interesting. And you're saying the quality has dropped over time.
Well, because now you have private sector. Private sector makes money first. Let's not forget. Anything private sector is based on money. You were with me 1 hour, how much have you earned? Not how much have you taught, how much have you earned? And this is the trouble. They no longer follow the stringent nursing training the people used to have, or basic anatomy, physiology, and so on. No, their knowledge is terrible. And a nurse trained those days had a culture of nursing. They would not do something wrong without spitting. You see, they would never.
And you speak about nursing colleges that were closed. Even teachers' colleges closed.
Of course. Well, we're talking about nursing. Those are some of the evils my party did. And they've never explained to the world why they stopped those nursing training.
And teacher
training. Never. And of course, you come round when you are in that same why the veterinary faculty at Medunsa was closed. They've never told the world what they did.
Wow.
Never.
Early days of Medunsa, is there an uptake of young people that now want to be doctors? There's a school that's available now. It's for us. Was there an interest almost immediately?
Oh, for training, there was never a difficulty. From day one, we had difficulty as to who we leave out.
Ooh.
You see, it was important.
Did they have the right pass marks?
Yeah, well, the qualifications we're talking about, they were qualified to learn, study medicine. Later, we had done research which I hated as to what criteria we must take from people coming into medicine from matric and so on. We're the only medical school that had a research outcome used. And even today, I don't think there's anyone that's used. They use thumb sucking. But we did. It's a symbol. We had it, we looked. This is after we had finished the first 5 classes. We looked at what quality they had. We analyzed that. I headed that committee. And we wanted to find out what they needed from matric. And we found only 2 subject matter.
Okay, which was?
Mathematics and science.
Yeah.
That's all. So we used a sum of those to qualify. When we found any value, if anybody had passed any of those, the sum of those, where you cut depend on what spaces you had. And we did well from there onwards.
Yeah.
We then analyze other things. What are the interested subject or qualification or jobs they were doing? We found that those who were trained in medical fields like nursing,
is it pharmacy?
Radiographers and so on. If you trained them, you loaded them, they rarely failed. And then we loaded those. We gave them a loading number.
And that leads to a lot of an influx.
It doesn't, if you agree, you cut with what space you have.
Yes, that also plays a role.
That's all. Space becomes your limiting figure.
If you could, you would take all of them.
Yes, and they would all pass.
Yes. Wow. Your story has a moment that is called the Mokgokong wave. What is the Mokgokong wave?
I don't know why they call wave. I just increase intake at Medunsa.
By increasing intake, you're increasing output.
Yes.
Yes.
In 1992, was my first year. You see, when I became in administration, which was in 90, I was in charge of education and so on, and I quietly studied what we need to take people and so on. Then in 1992, I was the Vice Chancellor. I spent that year studying the intakes, and we were taking 120 in the first year and 120 in second year.
Okay.
And we're producing about 50, 60 doctors a year.
Not bad. Is that a good number?
It's a bad number.
Uh-oh.
If you want to.
I thought you were doing well.
No.
It's 50% of your intake.
Yes, but the number was very small.
Okay.
So I decided I was going to quadruple intake.
So you can increase your output.
I increased to 400 in first year and 400 in second year.
You didn't struggle to find interested young people?
No.
Okay.
I'd struggle to find where to teach them.
Okay.
Yeah, that's the wave they talk about. Such that by the time I retired in end of 98, we were the largest medical school in terms of producing doctors yearly.
The largest in the country?
In the country. Nobody can claim the numbers we produced.
So that's why it is called the Mokgokong way.
Yes.
Because you were outputting lots and lots of doctors.
Yes.
What did naysayers question the quality?
The what?
Did anyone question the quality
how can they?
of these doctors?
How can they?
I can work a sausage machine now.
No, but the examinations are such that in medicine, all the medical schools take part in your examination.
It's the same.
So it's the same.
Yeah. And they're passing.
You can't give distinction in vets and distinction in Medunsa. You say they are different distinctions. There's nothing like that.
Yeah.
So that's the way.
That's the wave.
And I used to take a lot of students who would be taking, these medical schools like vets that took, fellows with 20 distinctions and so on. They stayed 2 years, then they throw them out. They said they failed.
Oh, no.
I used to bring them at Medunsa. And they all passed.
What was the challenge with them at vets and it was relatively easy with you?
Well, I am unfortunately born with a lot of melanin in my skin.
You're darker.
Which the people at vets don't have.
Okay. Yes. But still, what difference does that make?
You see, the trouble with this country, it suffered the color thing. If you take what we take as a genius, and he fails at vets, you don't know what damage you do to the whole nation.
Whoa.
We say in this thing, even geniuses fail. The damage you do. And I proved that it's just that, nothing else. None of the fellows I took that were kicked out at the Cape Town and the vets failed to complete medicine.
Why did they fail? Like at vets, what was it? Because it's the same thing.
Well, it's who corrects you. See, you take, our black children are not as what you call it as whites or Indians. They go and play a lot. So they come out not as sharp as they should be.
Okay.
And that's easy to deal with them.
From matric, you mean?
No, they pass matric high.
Okay, yes.
Then they get to university, they become town guys. Yes, and that's the big
thing.
Yes, that's the big trouble.
I say that they're overwhelmed by the big city, so to speak.
I don't know. They really don't work hard, most of them. No.
Jeez. How do you then get Jabu from Ntuzuma, who's failed at vets, and now you're saying bring him here? How do you get him right?
I just talk to him like a father talks to a son.
Yeah.
You see that you fail here, you're out. And they don't fail. There are many of them, they will tell you that I was their savior. They saved themselves. You don't come to play.
It's a serious business here.
Serious business.
What is the implication of the Mokgokong wave in the South African Black society? What did you notice? Because now you are producing hundreds and hundreds of doctors in townships. What was
I'm no more producing. I'm retired now.
Yes, well then.
No, it's I don't know. All I know is that people just respect me, I think, which I thank God for. I've never done anything for myself that I was not interested in. Yeah. Is to make sure that institution succeeds and the nation gains from the presence of that institution. That's what I did.
It is acknowledged very highly, and I keep referring to it deliberately because that's what it's called, the Mokgokong wave. It's acknowledged very highly as a savior of a lot of townships in terms of the medical care that it received. It's acknowledged very highly as part of uplifting the Black community because doctors are respected in the township and anywhere. You say, I'm Dr. Mashabela, immediately we look at you slightly differently.
Yeah.
and there's a doctor in the street and he's a medical doctor. And there's a doctor we know. And if you say, I have a doctor friend, the tone changes. It's like, oh yeah, you have a doctor friend. We need to speak to him. It changes the way you're seen because of that. And you, whether you're aware or not, from a sociology point of view, you make a contribution to changing the outlook of Black people who are now medical doctors in their townships. You now also make it easy and accessible, easy access to healthcare. When we measure living standards, we measure access to medical care as one of those basic standards. How far are you from a doctor or from medical care? And you make medical care easy to access, whether you're aware or not, when you were in Garanku at a university. But that's what you were doing to society. Now I'll ask, having said so many words, were you conscious of this thing that was happening?
Well, all I knew that I wasn't aware we're getting there, but we're trying to achieve just that.
Okay.
To increase the population of doctors, to be able to serve the community. That's what I tried all the time.
Do you think you achieved it in some way?
Well, I think we started cobbling a bit. But I still think I wanted, if I continued, if God gave me another life, would be to quadruple the intake even more.
What?
To produce more doctors a year.
Yeah.
You see, it must come to where you don't take a doctor because he's a doctor. It must come to where it's because it's the quality you need. Then you know the nation is ready.
Do we produce a lot of special doctors, so those that are specializing in particular areas?
I think at the rate of the number of doctors we produce, I think yes. It's if we produce more specialists at a rate of more specialists than it would be wrong. We must increase the base.
So you're saying the number is equal to the base?
To the base.
If you're producing 10 and you have 2 specialists,
yes,
it's not so bad.
Yes.
Do you encourage doctors to specialize, or there's a need for GPs as well?
I encourage them to. No, GPs are necessary. They are the base for healthcare. Must have a base. It must be a healthy cone with a big base.
Of the foundation.
Of foundation.
Yeah.
You see, you must have that. We must teach more community medicine. That I'm quite sure we need to improve on. The specialists will come in. They also need to improve. The specialists must be able to do a lot more research than they are doing now. That's where I think we fall short at the present time.
Why is that? Motivation by these young ones?
No, you see, you must also always have a driving force. It's how we produce specialists. Let's take Britain, because I'm using Britain because our education is British-based, whether we like it or not. The British-based write an exam, then are trained to specialize afterwards.
Okay.
Now we train them, then make them write an exam at the end. Now the trouble with that, with ours, is easy, all right, but it lacks the quality that you need. If you let them write exam, then they work in an environment of the specialists you need. They develop the quality from their seniors. And the British system, I've come to think after many years of opposing it, that is the better system.
Okay.
Now you see what we do. Our fellows write MBCHB. 5-6 years later, they write the fellowship, which is a diploma, by the way. And then we give them a certificate to practice as specialists. They have not yet practiced as a specialist. No, they have been doing simple book work and being taught things by other people. Now, I said a very clever fellow, top of the class, who gets the fellowship, will take 5 to 6 years in the institution to get a complete comprehension of the of the subject he's doing. Now ours lacks that comprehension. It lacks that.
It lacks that.
Yes.
So they go out half cooked in that sense, as specialists.
And they come in, they open next door a fellow who's been doing it for 10 years and they charge the same amount of money.
Ooh.
See, that's wrong.
And the exposure to reality is very different. Okay. Well, but that's something that can be changed, isn't it?
It's not easy. It's not easy, but it should be. It should.
What advice, as someone that has taught doctors for so long, would you give to fellow students of the medical profession and those that are professionals? Because some of them came out of your hands.
You see now the difficulty is, for instance, specialization. It depends on posts in teaching hospital. They ask us because of money.
Yes.
Not because of need. A lot of young fellows finish up to get the fellowship they want to be in, stay in for 4 or 5 more. They can't because the posts are needed to train many people. That situation should be changed so that these people should have a further time where they are now becoming comprehensive in what they are doing. Yes.
Do we need more medical schools?
I think yes. Well, we're about they are getting. I think Northwest is getting one. We've got one from Polokwane. I think 1 or 2 more would be all that we need.
And why is that? Is it population size or?
It's population size and the need for the areas where there's a medical school. There's general improvement of quality of healthcare.
Yeah. Yes.
So we do need that.
So it has a multiplier effect in that sense. It affects the neighbor area.
Right.
You have, as a gynecologist, also practiced in the rural area. Am I correct?
Yes.
What was that experience like? And I ask this question because gynecology as a practice is, and if I'm wrong, correct me, is seen as a modern urban urban, and help me understand it.
Yeah.
As an urban discipline, where an urban young lady, mother, woman, would want to consult a medical doctor. How was it received in a medical setting, in a rural setting?
Well, the rural sector is that I used to take my groups of students and postgraduate students for a week in the rural areas to get for the people in the rural areas to get a specialized consultation.
Yes,
as a training basis. No, I think that they need, but the general practitioner can do the basic needs of the community at the grassroots.
Yeah.
But they should know when they can't deal with it and do it timeously.
Of course.
And move it up. That was the main idea of training at that level.
Was it well received by the community?
Oh, yes. And also by the students.
Yeah.
It was very, very well received.
I asked this question, and that's probably why you laughed, when I said it's seen as an urban medical treatment because, well, one, it's costly. Two, it's invasive, so to speak. And I use that word very carefully. And that's why I asked, in a rural setting, when medical care like that is not standard, was it easy for the people to say, okay, yeah, maybe that's the right doctor to go to?
Public health is planned such that you can refer.
Yes.
Even where the basis is the general practitioner. Anything that gets too invasive thing should be able to be referred to a center where it can be done timeously. And the referral system is made on basis of distance and time.
Okay.
So you congregate the base to a center where it can be done. So that it's not really an urban thing. No. It should be part of the cone all the time.
Yes. Yeah. And I'm not saying it's urban and it should be urban. I'm saying it should be, I guess it's education also. It should be accessible to everyone easily. And you said it's the space and time factor that plays an important role there.
Yes.
You have a relation with the Masekela family, Hugh in particular, in this regard, because he's the famous Masekela in this context. How do you become family?
Our cousins.
Ah.
Now it all comes from where we come from.
Okay.
Mother of my mother, right? Mother of my mother.
Your aunt.
Was mother
your
of
grandmother.
Yes, was a Miss Masekela.
Ah.
Yes.
So it's a maiden relative.
Relative, yes.
Before she got married.
Yes.
Wow, that's an interesting one. So they're not distant cousins.
No, it's not distant. They're first cousins.
Yes.
Their parents are my mother's first cousins. Yes.
Was there ever a moment where the famous Masekela was in the company of who became a Professor Mokgokong? You in this regard?
Oh, I mean, we were very close. I was even there at his funeral and everything.
Yes.
We were very close. Ngwana
Malume. Was there ever anyone with such a heavy culture of education? Was there ever anyone that asked, this one who's blowing the horn?
Well, his father was very close to my mother. I was already, I think, at Natal University studying medicine when he started doing the trumpet things.
Yes.
So when I was on holiday, my uncle came, and the first thing he did as he came out of his car at Makotopong, he says, Sesi, have you heard who wants to go to university to study playing the trumpet? I said, have you ever heard anybody playing trumpet? So that's the attitude the family. He had to travel to come and see his cousin to discuss this abnormal thing his son was about to do.
Jeez.
And I remember they tried to get my opinion. I said, no, that's what he's interested in. Let him do it.
Yeah. I guess it's as the story goes, surely the family was proud.
Oh, yes. Oh, he did well, or you, very well.
Yeah. That's incredible. Is there anyone else of the Mokgokong who followed suit in the medical fraternity besides your son?
In medicine? Oh, lots of them. There's a son of mine who's passed away. He was just about to finish radiology.
Oh, no.
Right?
Yeah.
He died young. He died right in the hospital. In fact, he died in front of my eyes.
Oh, no. Oh, no.
Right. And then there's a son of mine who's a radiologist. So, and a stepdaughter of mine who's an anesthetist.
Jeez.
So I got quite a number of doctors.
Is it do you think it's your influence?
Well, yes, I think. But my last born son is a civil engineer. I always, because Sam, you always referring the one who died this year. He was supposed to be the civil engineer, and I got tired. I took him to Nata. But my last born fellow is a civil engineer.
He managed to break.
Yes. No, I wanted him to be. He's done very well with that. He's a civil engineer.
When you look at your life and how we raise young kids, whether now or how we've raised young children over the years, and how you were able to produce not only doctors at school, but also doctors at home, what do you think we get wrong as parents who are raising young people?
I think the business of raising children is a difficult one. I don't think I've done as well as my parents did. I think they were wonderful. They raised 7 children very well, all 7 of them.
Teachers and a doctor.
Yes. But I think what we do wrong is losing interest in what the children are doing at school. You don't have to be a specialist to know, but just to be interested what le tutileng skolo.
On that particular day.
Le tutileng irigborn. That type of thing. That gets the children on their feet. And if they don't do well, to say you don't do well. They don't like it, but you better say it rather than not say it. We make a mistake there. They do wrong when we keep quiet to fearing to hurt them. That's not the right thing.
Jeez, that's a big one. Because earlier, the beginning of our chat, you spoke about most parents don't even know what the kids are doing at school.
Of course they don't. I think that's the failure. In 1990, we who were ANC allied used to have boss barracks preparing, because then we were aware apartheid is going. We didn't know in a year or 2 years. And one of the things we worked on, we said, let's work on education because it's the basis for everything. And one of the things we said, there must be compulsory education, compulsory free education from 0 to 12. And the idea is to get parents take interest in it. You get a child in the street, you follow the child to the parent, you arrest the child. ANC never took that advice.
Oh, no.
Okay. Even today, it's not.
Yeah, well, I know what happened now, but I'm surprised.
They never did.
In the early days, it wasn't applied.
But we did give them that to do. No, we really did. And some of my great friends, Jake Scherver, are late now. But that's what we came in with. That should be done.
So the interest in your child's education is at the heart of the child's success.
Of course it is.
Yeah.
You see, and you mustn't, you don't show interest, then they don't get interested.
You're showing interest will get them interested.
Of course.
It's an interesting. I didn't know
Not that.
it connects that easily.
Oh, it does.
Yeah.
It does. I mean, in our family, my father, every test, everything, you showed him, and he would have a word to say about it. Well, you might say it's because he was a teacher by training, but he would have a word to say.
Yes, he came with that, but yeah.
Yes, and that was important.
Wow. I like that. When I become a father, that's the first thing I will do.
Oh yeah, by the way, you haven't fathered yet.
Not yet. I'm not lucky. I'm not lucky yet. It'll eventually happen. I think I've delayed it too long. I was focused on other things. How many children do you have?
I always have to count. Since I married a few times.
Okay. Yeah.
Married 3 times. 1, 2, 3, 4. 2 stepdaughters, that's 6. 1 daughter, 7. 2, 9.
9 kids. All alive and well and strong.
Well,
there's one that passed on.
I've lost 2 already.
Oh no. Oh yes, of course. The radiologist and the Professor Mokgokong.
No, radiologists are 2. One is passed away, one is a radiologist.
Oh, still around, yeah. Are you a proud dad of what you've achieved over the years?
I am, I think, and I think I can't complain on God for having blessed me. He's blessed me with enough children.
Yes.
Some have not done well, but those majority have done well.
That's life.
That's life.
It generally works that way. As long as there's a support system that can hold everyone together.
Yeah.
Yes. You've been acknowledged by, I'll call it by government, by the presidency, with an honor of the Baobab.
Baobab.
Yes. What does things like that mean to you?
Well, let me be honest about the Baobab. It's a great honor. It's a great national honor. The only thing I keep saying to myself, why did it take so long to give it? Because in the last 20 years of my life, I haven't done the great things they're honoring me for. It's not, but it's a great honor that they gave me, and I'll cherish it.
I noticed even the school, Sefako Makgato Health Science University, also wanted to acknowledge you, and unfortunately, it was on a week when you're grieving the passing of your son. I guess these honors they continue to come, and how do you take them? Do you feel it's South Africans are finally waking up to seeing your worth?
No, I think if you are doing things because things had to be done, they honor you, you thank them for honoring you, but you don't put more than that to it.
Yeah. Because
you didn't do it for honors, you did it for something that needed to be done.
So in few words, it's not a big deal.
No, really, it's not.
And do you still think of because you're not a young man, and I wonder as an elder, how do you see the world, your own life in the future? How do you see that?
I just want to rest, read, look at TV, enjoy things I want, advise my grandchildren that I have a lot of time for.
Yeah, I saw them. They're quite young, still in high school.
Well, there's younger ones coming away. I have one that's a few months old.
Whoa.
Yeah.
That's good because kids are great for family. Yeah. Yes. What advice do you give to your younger self? Things that when you look back at your life, like I could have done 1 or 2 of those things better. What do you, when you reflect, and not with regret, but no more with knowledge, what do you think about?
Well, I have never really looked back too seriously to say one thing I wanted to do that I didn't do well.
Yes.
That I didn't do satisfactorily.
Yeah.
I think one can say I wanted to get on top of the job. I think it is quick enough, but I took 6 months later to do getting. It was rules, regulations then, and
it took long.
Well, you see, for instance, I became a junior lecturer in 1995, but only became a lecturer in 1997.
Okay.
67,
1967.
65
yes,
and 66.
Yes.
7. I could have done it earlier, but the regulations wouldn't have allowed me to write then.
Okay.
That's the only thing that was the delay.
You always refer to...
Otherwise, I think I did things as well as I wanted to.
You think, when you look at your life, to think it kind of worked out. What do you say to that statement?
Well, I think it worked out.
It worked out.
Yes.
Yeah, it panned out as, probably not as planned, but it was not a bad deal.
No, it wasn't a bad thing.
Yes.
No.
And you look at it now with, because the second time I come to your home, you seem quite relaxed. You take it easy.
Yeah, well, I'm by nature an easy-go person.
Okay.
That's by nature.
Yes. Are you aware of what you've achieved?
No, that doesn't get into my mind at all.
Why is that? Because it's quite a big deal to us,
No.
which is probably one of the reasons why I came here today.
I look back and I think God was kind to me. He gave me the right advice, the right mind at the right time. And I thank God all the time.
And I imagine the people as well. The right, because when the prayer that your dad gave was an important prayer.
Yes, and the young doctors who joined me at Medunsa too, who didn't train there but joined me to work there and specialize there, who supported me so well, and I used to have meetings with them when we were not doing to get their advice, and some interested friends like Judge Mseneke was then an advocate. I mean, before he was an advocate, an attorney, and so on. And his friends, they were in an advisory group of people to me of what needs to be done. Yeah. I thank God to have put me in contact with such people. They meant a lot to me.
Wow, that's amazing. There's a senior medical trainer, I'll call him that for lack of better vocabulary, and Dr. Mokgokong.
Yeah, I taught him too.
You taught him too?
Yes, Andy.
Yes, and he ended up as playing a role in Medunsa, isn't he?
He was my deputy president.
Wow.
Principal.
Yes.
Yeah.
I know him. I know the family. I as a young boy, I grew up quite around the family of Mokgokong.
Do you come from Musibidi?
No, not in that way. I made friends with the son who went to University of Natal.
Yes.
And then I became friends with the daughter. Okay. And then I became friends with the family system, I guess, in that sense.
We were very close. I mean, I used to spend time in Sibitielo at his place.
Wow.
I went to bury the mother as well.
Jeez.
Andy, we were very close with Andy. Unfortunately, he died before me.
Yes.
Yeah, but he was a great fellow then.
Because I know he left the medical space and then came back to teach in Limpopo.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes, I encouraged him to go there.
Yeah. I remember that moment.
He was a man who believed in perfection.
Wow.
Andy.
Yeah.
Nobody that I can remember who was so perfection-driven as he was.
Perfection in what way?
Anything he does.
Yeah.
He suffered mediocrity badly. He really did.
Yeah. Incredible. And once you left the university, your retirement, what did you go to do?
Okay, I was doing private gynecology.
Yes. So you carried on with that?
I did, yes.
And you wanted to practice or was
Yes, I wanted to practice. That's why I was in the group that built Mediclinical High. And from that time, I had a room there, which I still use in all time. I still see my menopause group once a week on a Monday.
Okay.
I still drive there and see them.
Wow.
So I still use space there.
So you still enjoy the medical world?
Oh, yes. That's what I'll die a doctor.
You'll die a practicing doctor.
Yes.
So doctors don't quite retire because the mind still works. Wow. I think you're a special South African. And we're very lucky to have lived in your lifetime because we lived together in a similar lifetime. You lived longer, obviously, but we're very happy and that's why, because I have this thing that I do on our channel where we speak to South Africans whom we think they truly, truly matter, and we haven't paused long enough to acknowledge what they've done. And as you said, be given the order of the baobab is a moment, but it's probably not a big deal as you put it. However, I say we're happy you gave us the time to document your story in your words, because it really will teach a young man who's struggling with whatever they're going through in their lives and they think they cannot achieve their dreams. And they look at your life and say, maybe I can be anything I want, because there's a man who grew up in a rural area and he became the biggest contributor of the medical science in South Africa. Bawitsa, the grandfather of medicine. There's a phrase I got. They say regarded as one of the grandfathers of South African medical profession. How do you look at yourself?
It's just one of my dollars.
That's it.
Yes, I did everything I had to do, you know. I used to be very, very frisky when I was young, and I did a lot of things, especially when I was in Natal. There's a lot of things I did touch on with that. I always worked for quality.
Yeah.
And that's what I liked. I don't like mediocrity at all.
You gave us great doctors. And for that, we want to say thank you very, very much.
Thank you.
You are an incredible South African, Professor Ephraim. You say you named one of your grandchildren.
You keep leaving out the important name. It's Ephraim Tibedi.
I'm getting there. You named one of your grandchildren Tibedi.
Yes. Oh, not one. There are lots of Tibedis.
Okay.
Yeah, but there's one Tibedi here. You go to any Mokgokons who come originally from Mutwa Peregis, you'll get a Tibedi.
Yeah.
There are lots of Tibedis. We name the same thing. There are names which are called Mutwa Peregis names.
Yeah.
And we name our offsprings. I name my grandchildren when they come in. When their mothers are pregnant, I tell, so this one is going to be this. This one is going to, so we give them the names from Mutwa Peregis.
Is there anyone named after your mom in that, or where do you get your name before we get there? Where do you get Tibet?
Mine is my father's.
Oh, so he passed on.
Yeah, my father passed on. He was the first Mokgokong to name a child after his mom. So I come from him, but he had also was named after some ancestor of Mutwa Peregis.
Professor Ephraim Mokgokong, thank you so much.
Thank you.
You gave us, you're very generous, man. You gave us your evening at your home. We don't normally do this at people's homes, and we're recording this in the early evening, and you gave us your home in the evening, and for that I will always be grateful. I sometimes pinch myself and wonder, how am I this lucky that I'm able to get such interactions with people whose lives I hold at such high regard. So thank you so much.
No, thanks.
Thank you.
King David Studio Podcast.